Welcome to Just Break Up, the podcast about love, heartbreak, and all the relationship advice you don't want to hear. My name is Sierra DeMulder.
And I'm Sam Blackwell. And today we're going to answer a letter from somebody who's wondering if she's making herself less valuable by having sex. But before we begin, we just want to give you our Surgeon General's warning, which is that Sierra and I are not licensed mental health practitioners.
That's so relatable and so annoying. Like, I was immediately transported back to high school.
Oh, for sure.
And
I was thinking of like the metaphor of the flower, where every time you have sex,
Yes.
it like crushes the flower more, and then no one's going to want a crushed flower. And it's like, oh my God,
Yeah.
calm down.
I know.
Why are we doing this?
because we hate ourselves. This is all to say, I deeply relate to this letter. So, letter writer, don't worry, I'm on your side. I'm frustrated by our puritanical understandings of sex. But Sam and I are not professionals, so please take our advice as you see fit. We're only here to offer our humble and somewhat angry musings about the incredibly rewarding but mostly confusing experience that is love and the puritanical education about sex and purity.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And heterosexual dating.
Listen, I got my COVID booster yesterday and my body hurts. So I think I'm just
Yeah.
like I'm reacting from the
A physical place.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I'm just like in my body in ways that I normally
Yeah.
am not, because it like hurts. And so I'm just like, I'm lashing out like a wounded animal at our writers. That's not true.
Not at the writers, at the people they're writing about.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. All right, wounded animal, let's go. The letter is from Is It Casual, whose pronouns are she, her, who's writing to us from Indiana. I'm a bisexual cis woman, 28 years old, with an undergraduate degree and working in a professional position. I've had a few long-term relationships, 1 year plus, and have a generally healthy mindset towards dating and relationships. I've been single since August 2023 and did a little casual dating, just hooking up if I'm being honest, from October until March. In late March, I started looking for a long-term partner again. Some of my dates have been really fun. I met some amazing, emotionally available men and women, but we weren't quite right for each other. A few, like the man I blocked, who texted me from another number 6 weeks later, were a nightmare.
Oh, no, I'm so sorry that happened to you.
In early May, I met someone I am very into. Cishet male, early 30s, similar education level and professional standing. I find him interesting, thoughtful, intelligent, et cetera, et cetera. And we had sex after our fourth date, and it was amazing. A few days later, he texted me that he likes me and feels a lot of chemistry, but he only wants to date me, quote, casually, because he has a demanding job and helps support his parents in his birth country. I agreed, even though I see him as a potential long-term partner. When we saw each other again, he was as kind and funny as before. When we saw each other again, he was as kind and fun as before. He still texts me daily, and he invites me to dates in public places. This doesn't feel casual. It feels like a situationship. After seeing a wave of social media posts about how women being celibate is an ideal choice, I'm concerned he labeled me as, quote, casual because of my sexuality. Time out. This is why we do not trust dating advice from Instagram. This is why I made the whole thing about reviewing Instagram dating advice, because it is 2% quality and 98% just insanity. Just kidding. It's more varied than that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. The letter writer writes, I've been fetishized and villainized in the past for my bisexuality, and I come from a conservative religious background that took a lot of work to deconstruct. I enjoy sex, whether casual or intimate, and take pride in what I view as my sexual liberation. I don't feel I should have to repress my desires in order to be respected or valued by the cishet men I date. Women, so far, have only made me feel seen and valued. I say to that.
Oh, God, here comes the feminism again.
Okay. Okay. I'm pretty sad about this situation. I felt an immediate spark with this man and was really hoping for a meaningful relationship would come of this. Would it be worthwhile to talk to him about my feelings, or should I just quit and move on? Do I make myself less valuable by having sex? Should I give up and commit on being a crazy... Should I give up and commit to being a crazy dog lady instead of finding romantic love? Yours, is it casual now?
All right. Well, thank you so much for writing to us and asking this question. Sierra and I are laughing, but we also know that this is like a really difficult situation to be in.
We're laughing at ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm also laughing at how in the past episode and a half, recording this week, I have isolated any new listener.
Oh, absolutely. Everyone's like, what is this podcast? Why are they talking about Luca? I'm sorry that this man doesn't want to date you in the way that you want him to. Like, that just sucks. And I'm sorry that the fact that he's doing that, keeping things casual, doing this like situationship situation is like making you doubt your value, right? Or making you question whether or not you know, expressing your sexual desire for him and for other people is like somehow making you less dateable, right? Like that's not a fun place to be in. So I just want to send you lots of love and support and say, like, this dude doesn't decide your value. And also I know that you want to date him and that's not happening. And that's really sad too. So we're going to get into probably a lot of musings. Is my guess that we're going to just muse a lot on this topic. But hopefully we'll also have some practical advice right after this break.
All right, my darlings, welcome back into the letter writer. Thank you for trusting us with this letter. I really appreciate the nuance that you took to not only write it, but to, you know, carve out your identity as a proud queer bisexual person who has worked to liberate yourself from the conditioning that we receive, particularly as young women, about how our sexuality and our purity are inherently tied to our worth. And we know that's not really true. Right? Or at least we have to remind ourselves of that because we are continually fed messaging about how our value is wrapped up in our sexual behavior and our sexual desires. And that is frustrating.
It is very frustrating. Yep. Mm-hmm. I'm with you. Because
I relate to it. Because I remember having an epiphany literally when I was like probably 28. And this is still like, we're talking, I had been sexually active for a decade or more, and I had multiple relationships. I'm in my like feminist prime, and I think I was like in a class and I had an epiphany that like the people you sleep with you don't like carry them with you like ghosts. You know what I mean? Like, and meaning it took me 10 years plus of being like a sexual being to unpack the shame and the stigma and the misinformation and the lore
for sure
that we receive around being sexually active. Mm-hmm. The idea that like, oh my God, your body count. First of all, what an atrocious way to talk about having sex with other people. But that like I carried so much regret about some people that I had slept with, and I felt like dirty and unworthy and I had lessened my value and that I had to keep it this shameful secret.
For sure.
And then all of a sudden I realized like they're not here. They're not with me now. Like,
oh, they are. Can you not see them? They're all like lined up behind you. All 700 of them or whatever.
How horrific. Emphasis on the whore. Making fun of myself. I don't believe in that type of language in a disempowering way. I just want to say, like, it makes sense to me, even though you've done all this healing and this self-empowerment, that you're still being like, oh, dang. And I want to say this to you, like, having sex with him on the 4th date.
Yeah, that seems like
pretty well timed.
Whatever. Nothing about having sex on the first date is inherently right, but it's also like 4th date feels like standard. Like,
yeah, no, oh my God, not for me. But meaning,
yours was like, you didn't even start dating before. You were like,
it's like a casual hello. Yeah. You know,
put my mouth on your mouth.
Just kidding. What I'm saying is, like, even so, if we were subscribed to the idea that the patriarchy and Puritan culture has taught us, is like, you waited 4 dates and they were going well and they were, this person was charming and you were pursuing a relationship together. Like, if we were subscribed to what we had been taught about sex, it sounds like you did a really good job of like timing this. And also, that's not real.
Yeah,
that's not real.
sure.
So you could have had sex with him on the first date if you wanted to, yada, yada. Anyway, what I want to say is you didn't lessen your value to this person, number one. Number two, we know that we can live inside systems that affect us and the people around us. So when we're thinking about why he's choosing to be, quote, casual with you or not pursue a more serious relationship, there are a dozen reasons. Number one, maybe he's just not into you. Maybe it did change his perspective about you, or maybe like he didn't feel super physically compatible with you, or maybe he is super busy and he's only interested in a physical relationship, or I don't know, maybe he reconnected with an ex from, I don't know. There's 1,000 reasons why.
For sure.
And for him, could it be connected with the sex? Maybe. But for you and I and Sam, we know that you're not lessening your values as a person, as a partner, by exploring your sexual desires with someone. We can't control how the patriarchal systems affect the people around us. Like, we know that heterosexual culture does tell heterosexual men that women who have sex more are less valuable. They have been taught that their whole life, the same way that we have been taught that we are less valuable. Right. But we also know that's not true. So it's sort of like a catch-22 is I can't say to you that didn't change his perspective, but I can say to you that his perspective, if that's true, is not real or valid, or you don't want to be with somebody who did have that change their perspective. I'm spiraling here, but do you get my point?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. If you having sex with him on the fourth date made him feel a type of way about you, like that's a him problem, not a you problem. That's his own stuff, but it has nothing to do with you as a person, right? Like,
I also feel like this Puritan culture teaches us that we have to say, "Oh, I want to keep it casual," instead of saying, "I'm interested in an exclusively physical relationship with you." I think this would be you would feel differently about yourself and your sexual relationship with this person if he was explicit and said, like, I just want this to be physical. I don't really have the capacity to pursue something emotional. But instead, this casual thing it like moralizes it and puts it in this gray area. Do you know what I mean?
For sure. I mean, it's confusing because he's like, I want to keep it casual, but then is like texting you every day and like taking you out on dates and stuff, which is like, exactly what you said. Like, this doesn't feel very casual. And, like Sierra said, we don't know what's going on in this person's mind. And also, like, he doesn't get to decide your value. And also, we know that we're in this patriarchal culture. And so, like, values about sex are pretty damaging sometimes. And given all of that, you also have power in this situation, right? Like, I know it may feel powerless because like the thing that you want is off the table, right? Which is like an actual relationship with this person, which sucks. Like, that's terrible. There's a lot of pain that goes with wanting to be in relationship with somebody who does not want to be in relationship with you, right? Like, if that weren't
built a career off of it.
Absolutely. It's like, if that weren't the worst heartbreak, we would not have a podcast, right? Like, that's the long and short of it. And like, you also get to decide what you want to do with this information, right? So if you don't want a situationship, don't be in a situationship with this man, right? If you don't want a casual relationship with him, don't be in a casual relationship with him. Like, I know that like you want him and the desire is there and he sounds like a really great guy and super fun and the sex is great and all of that, right? But I just want to remind you that like every day you are waking up and choosing to continue to be in a relationship that's not working for you with this person, regardless of all of the things that we've talked about, right? Which I would love to get brunch with you and like unpack all of the different ways in which particularly cishet men demean cishet women by like yelling, by like not being good about sexuality with them, right? And also like your own bisexuality too, right? Which gets fetishized and people are weird about it, right? Like, there's so much biphobia that exists in this world that is also happening, right? And I think, like, as people with marginalized identities, right? Like we're looking for these patterns because we've experienced these patterns before, right? Like I know sometimes it can be like, I'm on the lookout for homophobia, right? I'm on the lookout for bi erasure, whatever it is, because like I've experienced it. And so I know that people have this, right? And I want to say that like we don't know if that's happening, but like the fact that you're feeling this type of way and you feel like there's no way to like have a conversation with him about this is, I think, part of the problem. Right? Like this man doesn't seem like a very safe space for you to do this unless you decide to have a conversation about what does casual mean, right? Like, why are you texting me all the time if we're being casual, right? Like, I think these are conversations that you could have with him, but right now you're just in this like in between period where it seems like he's calling the shots in terms of like what this relationship looks like. And you're feeling like you can't do anything about it. But I want to say, like, you get to decide as well, right? You get to decide how much access he has to you, whether or not you respond, whether or not you want to have this conversation, right? Like, you are empowered to make some choices about what you want this relationship to look like.
I think that's really beautiful. And I want to just continue it and say, you know, it does hurt to be rejected. And you can allow yourself to, you know, you might be sexually liberated and decide like, okay, I'm fine with having casual sex with this person without the romantic relationship. But you're not any less liberated by saying, you know what, my feelings are a little too entangled in this, so it can't be casual to me. That doesn't make you any less liberated in your identity. In fact, that makes you so emotionally mature to understand the parameters always ebb and bend and flow with our emotions and in different situations. Do you know what I mean? This all makes so much sense to me. And this stuff has been brought up inside me internally for decades, as I shared. So I just don't want this person's rejection of you for whatever reason, because we don't know, right? We're assuming based on the cultural conditioning that we've received. This person, I don't want you to conflate this person's rejection with with a lessening of your value, particularly as it relates to what we've been taught about sex and purity and whatnot. Listen, celibacy is a great choice if that's great for you. It doesn't make anyone more or less valuable. Like, we all have different relationships to our body. We all have different sex drives and sexualities and sexual experiences. And if celibacy makes you feel great or you want to explore that for a while, that's awesome. But that's not something you need to do to earn worth in our society. And we can start to unpack and untangle some of those lies by living in our truth.
Mm-hmm. For real. It was a lot of musings, I think. There was some advice in there, though. Ace of Casual, again, I'm so sorry for the heartbreak that you're experiencing about this particular man. I hope that it's worth it to you and that he's worth it to you to have a conversation about what a different iteration of this relationship could look like. Because I would really love for you to find a way to move forward in a way that feels good for you. But just know that you get to decide how much time, attention, affection you are willing to give this person. And Sierra and I know that you are deeply worthy of love, of a meaningful relationship, of respect, regardless of what you do with your sexuality.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for writing.
We love you. We hope this helps. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. If you would like more content from us, or if you would like access to our monthly office hours, you can support us on Patreon. If you support us on Patreon for as little as $5 a month, you'll get an additional bonus weekly episode. That's patreon.com/justbreakuppod.
You can slide into our DMs, send us your favorite relationship memes, but most importantly, you can submit your questions about all matters of the heart at justbreakuppod.com, which is also where you can find our merchandise.
Please remember to like, follow, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating and review. This literally keeps our mics on and helps us reach more brokenhearted souls who need two random strangers giving them relationship advice.
Just Break Up is a production of Duvid Media, original music, recording, editing, producing, all magical things by our good friend Spencer Worth Davis. Make sure to check out his podcast and his music. And remember, your value is not determined by the people who love you or don't love you. Your value is not determined by the number of people you sleep with or what you do or don't do with your body. Your value is inherent. Your value is inherent to who you are. It cannot be taken away. It is yours. And if all else fails,
Just break up.